a regional superstar and has made time to spend with us here at SUNY Buffalo State University. It's the morning, everybody, so stay with us. Our first question is, what is your name and title?
So my name is Dottie Gallagher, and my title is President and CEO.
You are a CEO. I love that, Dottie.
I am.
What is the name of your organization and your organization's purpose?
So I have the privilege to run the Buffalo Niagara Partnership, which is the regional chamber of commerce for the area. We talk about really all the counties locally, but primarily our membership is in Erie and Niagara County.
That's amazing. And when you say regionally, you mean all of Western New York, correct?
That's right. That's right. When we talk about economic issues or advocacy issues, we're not only just talking about Buffalo, we're really talking about the impacts to all employers in our region.
Which is so aligned for us because I think at SUNY Buffalo University, a lot of people know us as a Buffalo University, but our grads are regional leaders, people statewide, internationally. So I love that your impact and your knowledge base spans the region. That's really special.
Yeah, a lot of people who work in many industries in our region are Buff State grads. Yeah, I actually went there for a year, Talia.
So you're a Bengal too?
I was a Bengal and I went away to school my sophomore year. I lived within walking distance of Buff State, and that's what we called it back in the day. Anyway, and but I really wanted to go away to school, and I had actually was a teacher at Buff State that told me about the National Student Exchange Program, my English 101 teacher, and I went there and changed my life, and I graduated from there, from Towson actually, through National Student Exchange. So yes, I have a very, very warm part of my heart for Buff State.
Dottie, I'm sure that's why you took my interview. I was telling everyone, I was like, can you believe Dottie Gallagher's coming to my radio show?
I'm a fan of yours. You know that. I think you do great work. So I was really pleased to be asked. I really appreciate it.
I'm equally excited to talk with you, Dottie, and I know that you're authentic and you're sincere. So, in some of the questions that we'll get to later about your motivation and your leadership journey, I'm sure that people are going to learn a lot because, again, you are a regional and statewide leader and very visible. And I'm proud to say that you represent us really well. So our next question is, if there was an organization that you would like to collaborate with in the future, who would it be? And or if there's an organization you're collaborating with now that you're really proud of?
Well, I would tell you collaboration is one of the 4 pillars of our organization. We that's the only way we can do our work. And I can't tell you if there's a person I wanted to collaborate with that we haven't yet done it, because pretty much, we're out there all the time. But the one I'm most proud of right now is a new, a really, not really new, but a much deeper collaboration with an organization called the Service Collaborative. And they do a lot of work with helping people who are out of the workforce, who want to have a different career and whose lives have been especially challenged. That they really help them get ready for work and help them get training. And then we're working with them to make sure that they get great jobs and careers. So we've worked with them in the past as part of a larger collaboration, but we were privileged to get one of the inaugural grants from New York State ESD for workforce, employer-led workforce development, and our partner is the Service Collaborative. So I am, as the British say, I'm chuffed about having this really deep relationship with them because I have such respect for Kate Serrata, who runs it, and that whole team over there. So I just am really excited about it.
I love that. So very much like you, I was in AmeriCorps, but I was only in AmeriCorps for like 6 months, but it changed my life. And so many people who are in leadership positions now, Dottie, they have a connection with the Service Collaborative. So you should definitely get a lot of support there. Thank you for doing that. And I think that that's fantastic. Obviously, in the Office of Civic and Community Engagement, we encourage engagement and such collaboration. So thank you for leading in that way. Now I'm going to get into like what I call my Dottie questions.
Okay.
So my one Dottie question was, okay, so it's a kind of a 2-part. Who inspires you now professionally? And then who inspired you as a young person along your leadership journey?
There are so many people that I work with that inspire me every day, and their names you might not know. A lot of people on our board who are just really committed to improving the region. On a personal level, I'm really inspired by people who, despite the obvious obstacles, have managed to really make a difference in other people's lives. So, if I I could give you a list of names, and I feel like I would be leaving people out. So if I had to pick one person who was really inspired by my whole life, was my grandfather, who was a principal at School 38 here in Buffalo. I would now call the Sedita School, and everybody loved my grandfather, and for good reason. And for the first, I don't know, decade of my career, wherever I would go and people would hear my last name, they would ask me if I was related to him, and then I'd hear these wonderful stories about him. So if I had to pick a person, it would be my grandfather.
I love that story. My son went to that school because this is Buffalo. Dottie, that's fantastic. That makes me really happy, and it's a school that I have a lot of love for. And I love that you present like internationally. Like you could pick you up and put you in any airport in Scotland and France, and but you're Buffalo at heart. And like that's what I love about you. That your
Oh, that's
stories
so
are,
nice.
and even that West Side. Okay, so I love that. Can you say his name for us, Dottie, just
Yeah,
so everyone?
William J. Gallagher. As a matter of fact, my best friend in the world, her mom, who I became close to her whole family, was a student of my grandfather's, and she told me some great stories back in the day of what it was like to be in Mr. Gallagher's school. So, William Gallagher, yes.
He definitely had to have a lot of personality with that last name in the West Side at that time.
He did. My girlfriend's mom's maiden name was Well, her maiden name was Pesamenti, so she was she was a real West Sider.
um, I'm so grateful for you sharing that part of your inspiration as a youth. And I just wanted to ask another question. So, in the future, Dottie, as you look to evolve to your next place of leadership, whether that be national or statewide, who are the leaders that you look toward that you feel are progressive or doing new things, or you're just like, oh my goodness, this person is someone who is an innovator? I guess that's what I want to ask. If there's an innovator that like you watch. I always ask when we do our leadership program, which I know you know a little bit
Hmm.
about, if people want to contribute, sometimes just giving me their book list, who they admire, their music list, or like the places that they look for inspiration are really helpful. So if you can't think of those things now and it wasn't on my list of questions,
That's
please
okay.
let us know. But if there's one person that you look toward as an innovator, I would be really interested to know that.
Well, when I think about people who are really doing incredible work, I don't know why her name pops into my head so strongly, but I think about Crystal Peoples Stokes, who is just an amazing elected official. She has a real commitment to her constituents, the region at large. And when you talk about innovation, she was really the first person to talk about reconnecting the East Side or East Buffalo, however you want to talk about it, in terms of the revisions to the 33. And it really, at the time, felt like a pipe dream, and it's going to become true. And I think when it happens, it really will be because of Crystal. I mean, she really has really carried the mantle. So I think of her as being very, very inspirational. I really find Hillary Clinton to be very inspirational, and I know she comes from a place of privilege, but she had tremendous odds, and people had a visceral reaction to her, either loved her or hated her. I was in the love her camp, and I just have watched her just operate with such dignity, and I just really admire her. And I got to meet her, which was really kind of cool.
Did you really? Those were
Yeah.
two perfect answers. Because now I'm like, oh, so now I have to invite Crystal People Stokes. And I'm like, Dottie said you have to come. I
Yeah,
actually
she's great.
attended the Black and Puerto Rican Legislative Caucus in Albany, and Crystal did a lot of organizing of just hosting people, and I was so impressed by the way that people from other places reacted to her, because very much like you, like I know her from the community, but to see people so in awe of her and to talk about, to your point, her bravery in policy innovation, I think I was
She's
really
I mean, she's
inspired.
a true leader in the sense that she really listens to people, which I think is the hallmark of leadership is listening to more than you talk, and she hears people out, and she also represents her point of view extremely well. So I just admire her very, very much.
And in response to Hillary, I obviously went to law school too, and I know how hard it is, Dottie. I know you know how hard it is to walk in. I always say one of the hardest things is to be female and to walk into a room of all males. Just the physicality of the space sometimes intimidates people, and I've seen you and Hillary do that with confidence. So definitely great inspirations on my part. Okay, so one of my questions for the later part of the interview is, and I think you said this, to innovators. So where do you see the future of Buffalo Niagara partnership? I mean, I see it growing, and so much of it is like, I feel like facilitating conversations. Like, Dottie, you have really important conversations with stakeholders that I feel like wouldn't otherwise come together otherwise. But is there a piece of your growth plan that you want to share specifically?
Well, when I think about the future of the partnership, I really think about the future of our community, right? Because that's what we're here for. We're here to be sort of the convener and organizer of sort of private sector leadership into the community. That's really what we do. That's what a chamber does. And so when I think about the future of our community, I think about really workforce, and I think about our high levels of poverty. And believe it or not, those things relate in the sense that we have to get to a place in our community where we're providing economic opportunity for everyone and supporting people as they cross what I call cross the bridge to prosperity. And in our work and our advocacy work, there's a lot of sort of hidden barriers for people to actually take advantage of the opportunities that certainly may have been hidden before, but everybody needs good people, and I think employers are more flexible in terms of, I'm going to say, baseline requirements. But at the same time, there are some real structural challenges to making sure that people are supported with transportation, that whatever public assistance they're getting to support their families now isn't disrupted. So there's some really hard work there that I think the partnership has to lead, because we represent the people who have all the jobs, right? So for us, workforce and diversity, equity, and inclusion are, two very big efforts on our part now to connect employers to, and I think that will continue for the foreseeable future.
I just admire you so much. And I think part of it is because of my lived experience coming from a place of poverty and always hearing people say, oh, yo no puedo coger eso porque me quita la cupone. So, like you talked about, Donnie, the decision that specifically women have to make relative to their quality of life when they go to pursue an opportunity. And
Right.
I know that you created a tool that I'm so proud of, because you actually are operationalizing that conversation that's been kind of hanging around for so long. Did you want to say a little bit about that
Sure, sure. I
tool?
can talk a little bit about it. And I have to just upfront, full disclosure, it's on our website, thepartnership.org, and it's wonky. Okay. So it's not, because, and we didn't build it, the Federal Reserve Bank of
But
Atlanta
it's
built it.
new, Dottie,
Yeah,
in
and we
your
asked them
defense.
to. We
Yeah.
asked them to, and we're only one of a dozen cities that has done it, and in the first city that employers have led the discussion, and it really lays out from an individual's point of view. I'm in this career. I don't have a career. I'm in a minimum wage job, and I'm thinking about being a massage therapist, an IT specialist, whatever it is, whatever the in-demand careers are they want to look at, and how many children do they have? Are they a single head of household, or is it a dual income head of household? And what public benefits do they have right now? And the calculator will run for them what is going to happen to them if they make that choice for the rest of their life. Actually, it's going to talk in the short term about you're actually going to have net less resources while you're in school. You're going to lose these benefits the first couple of years you work, but over the course of your lifetime, you're going to be way better off. I ran the calculator as a person who is a single mom of two kids, 2 and 7, who went to go from being in a minimum wage job to a masseuse. And that's not, anybody with talent and determination can do that. It's an easy career to access. And but even in that, if you look at the outputs of that, you'll see that that person standing there looking at their life's choice with those two young children is probably going to say, it's not worth it for me to do this, because for the next 8 years, I'm not going to be better off than I am today. But the reality is that that same person, if they had made that choice, would have had $200,000 more, which is a house, than if they didn't make that choice. So we have to work And by the way, that's a completely financially rational decision that I would make as a single mom of two children. So I mean, this is not and that's really what we try to explain to employers. People are making really rational decisions here about the only financial security they have. So how can we work with government to incentivize and reward people to sort of cross that bridge to prosperity, so that they can see an immediate benefit of that extra work and the loss of time with their families, et cetera, that makes it worthwhile. And if we don't do that and people opt out of crossing that bridge, I always think about all the talent and innovation that gets lost because that person's never really been able to develop to their full potential and contribute in the way we need them to. And in Buffalo, why is this so important? Because we are not a place that is really we're still not a place that is an inbound destination. People don't sit in Miami Beach and say, boy, I want to move to Florida, I'm going to move to Buffalo, right? They don't. I mean, I love Buffalo, I mean, you
They're
drag me
scared
out
of
of here.
shoveling, Dottie. They don't want to shovel.
But whatever the reason, we're just not an inbound destination. We've stemmed the tide of people leaving Buffalo, but we're still not that place where people say, "I want to work there." And if you talk to some employers, they do a good job of selling Buffalo, and our colleagues at Invest Buffalo Niagara do a good job, and Visit Buffalo Niagara does a great job. But it's just a reality of where we are. We are in a state that we have a lot of people leaving our state, and it's just not it's just challenging. So what that means is every person who lives here, we have to make sure that we can take full advantage of the talent that they have. And that is going to mean that we as a community have to operate differently about how we look at that and how we begin to really change that. And I have to, a shout out to our friends at Say Yes, because a lot of the things that they're doing are really are making systemic changes and giving people more opportunity and supporting young people as they move into careers that have real opportunity. And I hope
And
they don't leave.
oh no, we're here forever. But Dottie, I want to say two things. One of which is it's amazing to me that what I love about you and many other Buffalo leaders is that you can be in the shoes of my neighbor, but then also 5 minutes later understand how someone who's doing international business is going to look at that same situation. And I think that's definitely a unique leadership skill that you have because you can explain both of those perspectives with empathy. And sometimes they're seem to be presented as a dichotomy, but I've learned from the Boys and Girls Club where we look at a lot of financial reports because we are very diligent about supporting our clubs, is that sometimes information presented in certain ways business folks respond better to. So
100%.
I'm sure that it's informational on both sides when they look at the numbers in a graph and you're like, oh my goodness. And I think, things like the value of private schools and college and all those things go into financial literacy and budgeting. And I know how you talk about the different agencies that support that. So I know that you definitely have like a full circle idea of all of the agencies that support to get someone to that place where they're even making that decision. And I wanted to give you your credit too, because I am a proud former member of the Say Yes team. And in order for Say Yes to flourish, we had to have a strong business community. And
Absolutely.
you advocate for them, Dottie. So thank you so much. So my last two questions are this. If you were talking to a business student, so if you were talking to a business student, what would be your best advice for the business student and or someone that was pursuing business as a college student? Because a lot of our students here have side businesses. And then my last piece of advice would be, and I get asked this question a lot because of some of my personal choices. If you're a mom, what is the incentive in supporting your child to have a business? Because I'm seeing a lot of people do that. And what my theory is, Daddy, and then I'll let you answer the question, is like generational wealth is the confidence to walk into a room and present yourself as a business person, no matter how much money you have in your pocket. And I feel like my little guy, he has a business and he tells people that. But I also know that that's part of like efficacy. And I feel like that's what you're trying to give people. Like, hey, I'm here to represent all of the businesses in the Buffalo Niagara region. And you work with some of the most prestigious people. Like, I just want to reiterate how exclusive this interview is and how excited I am. So in closing, my three questions are just what's your bit of advice? One for a business student, and then two for someone who'd want to have their own business, and then 3 if you're a mom or like a family member of someone that wants to start a business, like because it takes an entire family to make sure that one person in business is successful, which is
Right.
my theory.
So look, I think if I go back to my own lived experience, right? And I did go to private high school and public college. I never thought all my family are teachers and cops. No one ever worked in the world of business ever until my generation, my level of generation. And I think really the most important thing for someone to know who's studying business is you're worthy. If you're interested and you're passionate about doing something or learning about something, nothing in your past experience or your family's past experience should get in the way of that. And I will also say that people like to be asked for advice. So, if you're a business student and you see a job that you think is interesting, write that person a letter saying, I would just love to have 15 minutes of a Zoom call with you. Just tell me about yourself and how you got to where you are. People want to help. And you hit on a very important point, which is empathy and listening. And I think, again, I think whether you're in business or whatever you're going to study, that is the most important skill you can develop, is that emotional intelligence to really hear what is being said, not with very open ears. And that requires empathy to really truly learn. So your second question was starting a business. I'm not an entrepreneur. If I were to look back and you were to say, what's your one big regret? It would probably be that I never tried. And I never tried because I never believed I could. It was kind of crazy. And I look on it now, I'm a CEO. I've been a CEO now for 13 years and I was in senior management at the Buffalo News for many years. And that was just so silly to put these sort of false barriers. So I think in Buffalo now, the ecosystem for aspiring entrepreneurs, whether it's through, it used to be called E4All, I forget what they're calling it now, down at the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, 43 North, Startup New York. I mean, there's so many opportunities to, even on the Beverly Gray Center, there are places in this community that if you want to start a business, you know what, every entrepreneur succeeds and fails and succeeds and fails. And you just have to be able to do both.
They said that entrepreneurs fail an average of 7 times. And I was like, okay, well, if my son starts young, then by the time he's 18, we should be on the right track. But Dottie Gallagher, I can't tell you how much, one, I personally appreciate the presentation, the sophistication, and the way that you represent Buffalo women outside of the city. And I mean that seriously.
Thank you, Talia. That's very nice.
I'm so excited that you spent time with us, both on campus as a former student, which I'm going to tell everyone now, and then also just interviewing with us. And, sometime in the future, hopefully sometime over the summer, I know things never die down for you, but I would love for you to come on campus and see our planetarium. It's new.
I love that.
It's where my little guy's having his birthday party. And I just want to thank you for being transparent and sincere, because I think that I learned so much stuff about you this interview. It's very selfish, the questions that I'm asking you, because it would be like what I would want to ask you at lunch. So thank you so much. And everybody, 91.3 WBNY, we're here every Friday. And make sure that if you don't already follow the Buffalo Niagara Partnership, if you're a student, if you're a neighborhood member, they have a Facebook and they have an Instagram, and you can just stay, like Dottie said, I love the term, the part of the Buffalo business ecosystem.
Great. Well, thank you, Talia, for thinking of me and for inviting me on to chat. And I wish you the very best.
Latinas make history every day. Okay. Can you read it for me? Well, how do you say this one? Latinas make history every day. Okay.
If I gave you something for 500 and you flipped it to the next man for 2,000, what is that called?
Upselling.
All right, now me as your leader, as your father, the person that's supposed to have your best interest. If I celebrate holidays and Christmas your entire life and you got to go beg somebody for a job at 18, what did I do?
Fail me financially.
And I want you to tell me, how fast can somebody be a victim of gun violence in America?
It's fast.
Was told to hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. In a place that hears no evil, sees no